In space, no one can hear you, Homage.
We've been playing Pandora Celeste by Guntower Games. Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples. Today we're talking to you about Pandora Celeste, a board game designed by Mike Ibeji at Guntower Games, and it is a love letter to sci-fi movies and pop culture, certainly from our youth. There's quite a few different references in there to all sorts of films, so not just Alien, Predator, Terminator, I think there might be a little dash of South Park in there even. All sorts of things. If you're looking for them, you can find a little dash of this homage to sci-fi in this board game, which in its sort of base mechanics is a dungeon crawler, and you're going around the ship trying to achieve objectives.
So how do these science fiction references amalgamate into a game? Well, you're the crew of the Pandora Celeste and you've just woken up from hypersleep. We've all seen this in films, and the ship is in chaos.
Yeah, that never goes smoothly, does it? The moment they wake up, there's always a lot of problems to solve, and this game is not dissimilar to that.
So alarm bells are ringing, and you know that the ship is designed to protect itself. It has no attempts to protect its crew, because as the designer says, the contents of the ship is expensive, but the crew is expendable. So what you need to do as a collective crew is try to overcome various initiatives that the ship is doing to protect itself. So you've been sent a Learn to Play campaign, which teaches you everything you know to enjoy Pandora Celeste one easy step at a time.
Yeah, these 4 scenarios are like a learning setup. So by the end of that, you know everything that you need to know about this game.
And I think that's a really great way of getting to know a game, because it just eases you into the game without having to read all the rules first.
So it's really nice how you are progressing through these campaigns and learning more and more and getting more of those mechanics. So by the time you get to the end, you have finished all of that learning section, and there will be more from Pandora Celeste to come from that. But this is the learning scenarios. It's what we're focusing on today.
Teaching everything you need to know, then play the bigger game. The final game will be a standalone build your own scenario type game.
It really is, yeah.
And every time you play, you'll be facing different parameters and different big nasties to run away from. We've been playing a demo version of the game with a cut down version of the ship and only 3 characters to play. But the final game will come with a much bigger ship and a much larger range of big nasties you can face against. And as you explore the various parts of the ship, you're unearthing tokens. Some of these tokens will be items that are going to be useful within the scenario. Others are going to be memories that you unlock, adding additional skill cards to your hand. Or more than likely, they're going to be an alien that's going to be attacking you, or as you progress through the game, they're going to be a big nasty that wants to eat you. However, while you're working together as a team, you've also got your own individual mission that you need to be doing.
And they might be compatible with the group objective of, staying alive, solving the problem, maybe, putting out a fire or closing an airlock or whatever it might be that you're trying to do. They might, be sympathetic to that and help everyone as a group, and they might not.
And more than likely, while you're trying to solve the collective problem, you're also trying to go, well, how does this affect me? How can I manipulate this game to serve myself? Because by the end of it, you're going to have to get off that ship. And you're only going to be successful if you've obviously completed the group objectives as you've gone through the different scenarios, but also met your own individual criteria. So it becomes this element of, how do I do that without revealing what I have on my personal agenda, but I still need to contribute to a collective goal? And that gives you an interesting kind of interplay between self-preservation and also group preservation.
It does indeed.
But not only does the designer clearly love science fiction, but he is a lover of board games, and there's so many little elements of this game you just think, well, this is really well designed, this is really clever.
Opening up that board and putting it on the table and just being able to start playing so quickly isn't just about speed. It is about the design of the game. It's not just a USP for the sake of it. Oh yeah, the box is the board. No. The box being the board is integral to the game, because the box is the aircon system. You're climbing in and out of the sections which, when you put the board game away, you're putting the cards into, you're putting your tokens into. They're storing the game, but they're actually part of the play area that you need to play the game in, and that is genius.
It certainly streamlines getting to the table, and there's so many clever design choices that streamline the play too. Take, for example, the main kind of deck you're using. To do the different actions, you're drawing from cards, and they're multifunctional cards. So the same cards can be used depending on which action you're doing. If you look at a certain part and you've got the result. You may be trying to hack open a door, hack a computer, look at the card, you get the result. Are you using a tool? Well, look at a different part of the card and you'll get the result. And within that means there's a lot of kind of random elements, but that randomness is controlled. So take combat, for example. You're memorising the cards as they get revealed, knowing that what's been drawn means what isn't going to be drawn. And therefore you can then play the odds. You can go, well, now I know there's only statistically one or two of the cards that's going to have a negative result on what I'm trying to do. Do I push it? Do I chance my luck here?
Yeah, there's so many games that do like a monster attack on a dice roll, and it's kind of completely just chance. And I really appreciate when there's a little bit of randomness, but slightly controlled in that. You can think, oh, hold on a minute, there was a lot of misses earlier, so we should be careful here. Or, oh, if I try and hit them one more time, I think I might actually get it. Whereas with the dice, it's just literally on the roll every time. You can win, lose on the roll. Whereas this just gives you that little bit of leeway, that little bit of push your luck that adds a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, I think it's testament to the design of how well we felt after each scenario. We always felt like we just achieved the goal. If it had gone on one more turn, we would have lost. But it always felt like we were just about to achieve a goal. And that was because we were not just rolling a dice and hoping that, well, hope a good dice roll comes up, because if it does, we win. If it doesn't, we lose. We felt in control of the chaos, of the madness that was going on, with enough flexibility to really feel like we were guiding our characters. We were going where we wanted to go, rather than the game saying, well, you have to go here. Although that being said, there is heavy suggestions of what you should do and what the group is encouraging to do. Whether you follow those, of course, is entirely up to you, and largely up to what you think your character would do.
Yeah, and those characters are a bit different, and I do appreciate that those cards for you know have similar action cards, but they might have different powers. So for example, the sort of android style of character can regenerate quicker, can pull more cards back into its hand than someone else who perhaps can get into the aircon more often or use tools more often. If they're a sort of more mechanic style, then they might have more of that but less perhaps punch power. And the decks are similar enough that everyone can sort of do a bit of everything, but they are certainly tailored to a sort of a stereotype of character that you see in these sci-fi movies and their skill sets. And so you have to manage your decks depending on the character that you're playing in an interesting way, which was good. And when as you're playing sort of cooperatively, you're kind of thinking, well, if we're going to need to play a tool for a mechanic or something to achieve an objective, then you're going to need to save that because I've used all of mine, or you know, you are working together to do that and honing down on your character skills. And those characters are kind of a blend of all of those sci-fi things, aren't they?
If you're playing as the android, for example, you're not playing as Bishop, you're not Data, you're not Christ, you're an amalgamation of all of these.
Yeah.
However, they're a bit shifty. Because with the android, for example, we've got your own mission objectives, but you know one of those, if you've drawn, you draw two and you pick one. But if you're the android, you have to choose the corporation card. Now, statistically, you may not actually be working for the corporation, but you're more than likely going to be, and all the other players know this. And they know that if you're working for the corporation, ultimately, you're kind of a baddie. And you're probably going to stab them in the back, which creates this kind of level of distrust amongst the team.
But that's interesting because as the android, you are able to access things that are needed, those protocols where the ship is trying to sort of essentially self-destruct and you're trying to stop that. You need the android to be able to access these things easier, to be able to turn certain protocols off and achieve missions to do that. And so at what point do you branch off and think, right, I'll see you in the cockpit.
I'll let you do your thing. I'm just going to run it.
And now I'm just, racing to the shuttle pod and hoping you don't come after me, or whatever it is that you're doing. Don't try not to give too much away of all these scenarios and things. But there are, the scenarios are there, but you can play different characters, you can do different things. So I think each time you play even these missions, things will go differently. Yeah. Different creatures will come out, different hit results will mean that, fire spreads differently, or everything's going to change each time you play. So
we do talk about these events with excitement and with joy because it's so well written, it's so well constructed, and we do feel entirely immersed in this story, like we are participating, we were sculpting the story as we played. And I can't imagine, even though this obviously scenarios steer you, that anyone would have exactly the same experience from different plays. Player count, for example, would certainly change that. Character combination would change that. Yeah. Even, do you play it safe? Do you play it risky? And do you achieve your objectives, which could be entirely different in every single game? It's a whole lot of depth of gameplay you could be playing with.
Yeah, we had quite some debates about whether we sort of divide and conquer to try and achieve certain objectives in different areas of the ship, or is that the risky route, because then you haven't got any backup if you were to be attacked by any sort of creatures that might be lurking in the corners, or not, and how will you play that, and whether you then have time to go together to have a backup and then still achieve something, or whether you don't. Everything is going to be different with those different decisions.
And like all the great games, when someone's suggesting you do something, you're always going, why do you want me to do that? And I do love the fact that come the end, there is kind of this epic conclusion where you are fighting against the big nasty, which again is obviously homage to familiar science fiction tropes, but not just aliens. It's not just an alien game. There's all sorts of baddies you're going to come across.
Lots of them, different types from different movies. There's quite a few big nasties in the pipeline, as far as I can see.
And that will vary between each scenario and each campaign, and you just feel like, okay, well, I know how these stories are going to map out, and I want to be a part of that. That sounds exciting. And that big finale where you're racing to get into the ship, and then you're trying to desperately activate the ship. By that point, you know who's a goodie, you know who's a baddie, and you also know there's a load of these nasties everywhere on the ship, so there's a time pressure to get off that ship. Exciting stuff that you get right at the end of this game.
It really is, yeah. Obviously, all the footage that you've seen from us has been from this, the designer's prototype piece. Today, we're basically talking about it in, as we said, that sort of 4-scenario campaign, which will be available as a print and play. So that isn't exactly what you're going to be seeing here, but the gameplay, the scenario, the story of it, how that all works will be the same.
And I think that's a really great way of getting to know a game. It's a minimal cost, obviously just printing it yourself, but you get to experience, you get a taste of what this game can be and what this game is going to become.
Yeah, and this will be a prequel to a full box, this is very prototype, but to a full box situation that will have all of those further missions, further story after this learning section that we've been talking about. There'll be, as we were saying, loads more of the nasties, lots more things, different characters coming in. Who knows what else will happen past that point? But so this sort of full box will be happening, but for now there's a print and play to really give you a taster and see if this game is for you.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that print and play campaign. There'll be links in the description to Guntower Games so you can find out when that's going to launch, if it hasn't already launched when you're watching this, and how you can be a part of this super exciting game. And it's so great to be playing a game that I feel speaks to us. We love science fiction, and having a game that you can play quickly at a range of player counts suits the way we play games perfectly, because we can play a game together, we can take it to our game group and have a really great time.
Yeah, and playing in 1 to 2 hours, and when it sets up that quickly with the sort of box open situation, means you can take it to a gaming night and not think, you've got to have a whole day set aside to do some things that you can do some of those other bigger sci-fi games. So I think it gives you a nice taste of all that thematic fun that we love from games.
So yeah, that's been Pandora Celeste from Guntower Games. If you're new to the channel, of course, please consider subscribing, liking this video, and let us know in the comments down below what really excites you about this game. What have we talked about that you thought, oh, I've not seen that in a game, that kind of interests me. Yeah, and of course, subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. But till next time, Bye.